Welcome to the Connection Podcast. I am Lauren Dry, also known as the Connection Catalyst. Connection and this podcast for me is personal. As a driven professional, I found myself an expert in all things work and business, but it was at home that I really needed clarity and ease. After finally finding it one marriage breakdown and one marriage reset later, and finally discovering what really works to have connection in modern relationships using science, simplicity, and soul, our signature program, Rise into Regulation, was born. It's giving so many others in modern driven relationships back clarity and ease for good. On the podcast today, we're going to dive deep together on all things relationships, business, identity, and leadership. Clarity and ease is at the heart of it all, and we are so happy to be with you so that you can have what you need in connection, mind, body, and soul, too. This week's episode is one you might not expect. I sat down with Hope Pedraza. She is a functional diagnostic nutritional practitioner and a clinical hypnotherapist. And we talk about something that most of us never think about: minerals. Now, here's why I wanted to bring her on. Mineral balance doesn't just affect your energy or your sleep. As we age, our bodies absorb less and get rid of more minerals. And these deficiencies can shape how we show up in our relationships and how we show up for our own selves day to day. So that slight irritation that might feel like a mood swing, or fatigue that means intimacy just doesn't feel possible or even on the table, and anxiety that can make communication harder, or even just a sense that you're constantly being stretched too thin. Research shows us that over 90% of Americans aren't meeting daily magnesium needs. And I never even thought that magnesium was that important until a friend was sent to the emergency room with a crash cart because her magnesium levels were so low. In Australia, up to 1 in 3 women under 50 are iron deficient, and these aren't just numbers. They're indicators of stress, conflict, and disconnection, because when your nervous system is depleted physically, physiologically, and emotionally, you can't bring the presence and patience to your partner or your family or even yourself that you're craving. We're going to touch a little bit on human design, and if you've ever wondered, isn't that just astrology? You're not alone. Hope and I are going to unpack that question honestly. Now, Hope's going to share how she uses human design as a reflection tool alongside hard data. And this conversation is going to shift the way that you might think about resilience, energy, and even the unseen role that minerals might be playing in the way that you connect with the people that you love. Welcome to the podcast, Hope.
Thank you, Lauren. Thanks for having me.
I love this topic. And as I just mentioned before, it kind of took me by surprise how important it is, how important minerals are. I personally hear the word magnesium and I think, oh, okay, that's a nice thing. It's a supplement. It's great. But I really was not across the importance of minerals for us. And human design itself does fascinate me. But I'm excited to dive into it a little bit deeper as a self-confessed skeptic. So I'd love to hear from you why this is such a passionate subject for you and how you found yourself in this line of work.
Yeah, so my work really started. I'm here right now. I don't know if anybody's watching video on this, but I own a Pilates studio here in the States. And so my journey started there. And when I opened my Pilates studio, I wanted to create this kind of one stop shop where everybody could get everything they wanted in one place. So we had the mindfulness, the Pilates, the yoga, the cardio, all the things. And so I started with just basic nutrition coaching because I wanted to offer just basic nutrition support for people. And when I was having conversations with women coming into my studio, I was recognizing, like, yeah, they're telling me I want to drop 5 pounds or 10 pounds or, lean up or whatever. But really, what was going on in their body required deeper conversations than calories and macros, because these were like hormonal things and gut things and thyroid things and stress things. Like, there was so many deeper things going on. So that led me down the path of becoming a functional practitioner so I could do the labs and really dive into the nitty gritty of what's going on under the surface. And so as I evolved as a human, I know everybody who has a business who's listening, anybody that has a business knows as you evolve, your business evolves. And so as I was going through my own evolution, I was also recognizing that there was pieces that I was missing with just looking at the labs for my clients. And I was recognizing, like, doing a lot of healing on myself, emotional healing, like inner child work, all that kind of stuff, that really these physical things that are showing up on the body all have this energetic emotional root cause. And so that's what led me down the path of becoming a clinical hypnotherapist and doing the deep subconscious work, tying in human design to the work that I do. So I could really look at that energetic emotional root cause. We could put the whole, I mean, the word holistic, I feel like, is such a fluffy word we throw around these days, and it kind of loses its meaning. But if we really think about what the word holistic, it's to me it's whole, like WHOLE. It's the whole body. So if we want to look at the whole body, we can't just look at the labs. Like, yes, that's a piece of us. The physical body is one aspect of us, but we're also mental beings and emotional beings and spiritual beings. And so for me, I you can't leave any of those pieces out. So it's putting all of those pieces together.
I love that. That's such a beautiful description. Anyone who's been listening to the Connection podcast for a while, you'll know how often we reference, it's the mind, body, soul. And it can sound like a tagline. It sounds like a tagline, doesn't it? Everyone, it's
Yeah.
mind, body, soul everywhere. But my fascination really lies in the data. You know, okay, let's just say that if you can just use your mind and just think about things or just learn enough about yourself, everything will be fine. I've yet to meet someone who's just that fixed everything. Or body, okay, if I'm just really, really fit, if I'm really healthy, if I just focus on that, or even somatics alone, if I just have a strong relationship with my body, it's great, but it definitely, you need the other two pillars. And soul can be a reference. And for us, we really reference that as to our hidden patterns underneath, and working with the unconscious mind and hypnotherapy can be a really big part of that. But it's powerful when you have something that allows those three things to come together. So you call minerals the spark plugs of the body. I'm wondering, for our audience, are you able to explain that in simple terms? Why they matter so much for our energy, our mood, and our presence, whether it's just for our own selves or even in relationships?
Yeah, for sure. So when we call minerals the spark plugs in the body, we think about it, even if you don't know anything about cars, the spark plug is what starts the thing, right? And so when we're talking about minerals as the spark plug, it's literally everything that's happening in the body starts with minerals. Whether they're the catalyst or the cofactor, they're involved in some way, shape, or form. So every hormone, neurotransmitter, protein, peptide, enzyme, like everything that's happening, minerals are involved in some way. So a lot of women come to me and they're like, "Oh, I just, I need you to fix my hormones or my thyroid." And that's great. I would love to help you with your hormones and your thyroid. But that's not the problem. Those still aren't the quote unquote root cause. We really want to get down at a foundational level what's going on in the physical body. It starts with the minerals because the minerals are interacting at a cellular level. And when I'm doing lab testing, the lab test that I use to test minerals is called the hair tissue and mineral analysis, or the HTMA. And so you're literally sending in some of your hair as a tissue. And if you look at tissue as a collection of cells, this is what's happening at a cellular level. And this is going to give you so much data and really a different perspective on the data. Like you're talking about data. I'm all about the data too. So the data is important. And it's gonna give you a different look at, going to get your blood work at the doctor is great, but it's only gonna give you like a snapshot of what's going on. Because when you get blood work, it's like, what's going on right now? I could do the
Yeah.
same blood work tomorrow and it could tell me something totally different. When I'm
Yeah.
looking at the HTMA, this is what's going on chronically over time with your minerals. So you're gonna get a better picture, you're gonna get a more accurate picture of what's going
Mhm.
on in your cells. Because too, when you're looking at blood, a lot of minerals, not to get too sciencey, but a lot of minerals are intracellular, meaning they're supposed to be in your cells. So if you're looking at your blood, it's really not the accurate picture you want to when you want to know what's going on in your cells. So all that to say, minerals, I mean, this is the foundational piece of what's going on physiologically in our body. It's what's going on in our cells, and it starts with the minerals.
Right. Okay. And for someone who's new to this, what's an unexpected way that maybe not mineral depletion or an imbalance in their minerals in general, how does that show up in their lives? How does that show up in their bodies? Why does this have such an important day to day effect on us?
Yeah. It's I mean, when we say it's happening at a cellular level, it's impacting how your cells are functioning. And when your cells, the energy in your cells is being affected, literally every function in your body is going to be affected. So I mean, I could give you a laundry list of symptoms. Pretty much every physical symptom you could possibly think of is a symptom of some sort of imbalance in minerals. I think the most common ones for women who come to me, and I work with some men too, but mostly women. Energy, just like physical energy, whether that's energy crashes, they wake up not feeling rested, they don't have energy throughout the day. So just physical energy, brain fog, and metabolism. Those are probably the three most common. And those are so broad and so vague. And I think that's
Yeah.
why so often the minerals can be I mean, there's not a lot of practitioners who are specifically addressing minerals really, and especially in the
Yeah.
conventional world, it's just not something that's really addressed. And again, because these symptoms are so broad, they're easily brushed off, especially for women. It's like, oh, you have brain fog. It's just your hormones. Oh, you can't lose weight. It's just because you're getting older, right?
Right.
It's really easy to brush those
Yeah.
off. If we took a deeper look, like, no, there's some things happening with your minerals that we can work on to help impact these symptoms.
I think what can be so intimidating for people is the just the absolute library of minerals that are so important. Even just magnesium alone. So I used to think of just magnesium as a nice, like it's cool. It'd be nice to have more magnesium. And then I found out that there's a magnesium for digestion. There's a
Yeah.
magnesium for sleep. And then there's a magnesium for your muscles. And it just, when it came down to it, I was like, yes, okay, well, I could probably have more magnesium. I could probably do with some more iron. I could probably do with some more vitamin D to be fair. But it just can feel so all overwhelming. For me, though, when I started to look into it a little bit more, something that really fascinated the two aspects of, let's just start with magnesium, just narrow it down, that was so fascinating to me was when I found the magnesium,
Mhm,
glycinate.
mhm,
I'm going to
mhm.
say that 20 different times, and I know that depending on where you are, it's all going to be correct. So let's cover them all. I find, and we mentioned this earlier, because of my business, most of my clients are international, and naturally, I'm a little bit of a night owl. So I will be at my laptop, happy tapping away, and it'll get far too late for me to say what hour. And then I'll just go, okay, well, I need to go to sleep now. And I will either sleep, and anyone who knows anything about screens or just your circadian rhythm in general is going to probably be in shock at the screens or at the podcast. What are you doing? Get some sleep. And that was my challenge. So sometimes just due to lifestyle, you absolutely need to prioritize sleep. Absolutely, it's just a core tenet of your overall mental and physical health. But I was finding, even when I was trying my hardest, I think just being out of rhythm, but also too much blue light, too much screens at a certain time in the evening where you really should be clocking down. And there are times where it's unavoidable if you're a business owner or if you're someone who just enjoys nighttime. So I was struggling to have a deep sleep and stay asleep. And it was starting to affect me. I would wake up disgustingly tired, even if I'd had a full 8 hours sleep, 12 hours sleep. And I was recommended to begin on the supplement of magnesium glycinate. And I found a drastic and dramatic difference in my ability to fall asleep and stay asleep and feel rested. And when I put that together in terms of my physical and mental health, look, I'm not going to lie, my ability to parent, it was a very fast and dramatic difference. And we like to think, oh, minerals are nice. But if we are, the way that we are showing up day to day is absolutely a symptom of how it affects our relationships and our family. But also, we have to start paying attention to the fact that these are signals to invite ourselves to pay attention to our nervous system, to pay attention to how we're treating ourselves, because these are the knocks on the door that eventually become hits at the door, that eventually become the door breaking down. So I'm curious, how are you seeing, or what are you seeing as the most dramatic effect for your clients when they are coming to you and you're discovering that they have mineral depletion, or maybe at a certain stage of their life that it's really beginning to have an impact?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think that especially as busy women, it's easy to just brush off the thing because the thing is a lot of these symptoms, like we can still function. I can still function with low energy. Like you said, you weren't sleeping
Mhm,
good. You can still function. You're still doing the thing. You're still doing the do
mhm.
and making
Your
the
lips
things
not falling
happen.
off.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's easy to brush those things aside. And I tell my clients this all the time. And I'm so happy that over the past couple of years, I've had more and more women come to me before the wheels are falling off the bus, right? Where they're
Yeah.
like, I feel some things that aren't exactly right. Because I've had women come to me that, I mean, they've got the list of symptoms and the list of diagnoses from the doctor. They got 5,000 things going wrong in the body. And they're like, and then initially they're like, "Oh, I just didn't know it was this bad." But I'm like, "No, you did know. Like you felt the signs and the symptoms, you just pushed
Mhm.
them off." We feel them. We feel the signs. We're recognizing, but we push them to the side. I'll deal with it later. So I think the biggest thing really as far as like impact from balancing minerals or coming back, the biggest thing really is energy. And like you said, I mean, you can't the way that our health impacts every aspect of our life cannot be understated. Like it's, I mean, literally your business, your career, your relationships, your romantic partnerships, your parenting, I mean, every aspect of our life is affected by our physical well-being and mental well-being,
Mm.
obviously. And so I think that if we put that at the forefront, then I think we're more likely to listen to those little signs and symptoms so that we're not waiting till the
Mhm.
wheels are falling off before we do something about it. And the energy really, I think, is the biggest thing. Having more energy, the sleep for sure. I find that that's a really big thing, especially as I work with a lot of women who are either nearing perimenopause or in perimenopause or, beyond that, there's things that we address. And so the sleep as we get older, a lot of times the sleep is harder. Our hormones are shifting, our progesterone is going down. So the sleep thing is a big thing. This is going to affect our physical energy. It's going to affect our mental energy. It's going to impact how we're showing up for the day. So I think the energy, the sleep are probably two of the biggest things. And then also our brain function. I had one client specifically, she was about to go to the doctor to get on medication for ADHD. She's like, I know I have ADHD. Like, I can't concentrate. She had a really high stress job and this really high performing position. I can't concentrate. I can't. It was her minerals. We did all the mineral balancing. She never had to get on ADHD medication. It wasn't ADHD, it was her minerals. So, the
Mhm.
way your brain functions, the way you're thinking, like all of these things are impacted by minerals. And those are probably some of the biggest uh, transformations.
And look, I love that. I love that reference. And I don't want to negate anyone who has a diagnosis of ADHD of any kind. Also, I think it's a really important reference to the fact that labels are important and they are also deeper invitations to have a mind, body, soul relationship with your own self.
Agreed.
Okay, because there may be something deeper that you can support yourself with that allows you to regulate and come back to that homeostasis, that really deep, restful state. And as long as we're not afraid of asking the questions and, it feels like a journey into having a better relationship with our own selves, I think that we can have a strong curiosity about all sorts of things. What's my blood work? What's my human design? What's my diagnosis on more of a behavioral level as well? All useful. And let's not be afraid of continuing to go deeper into okay, what are the additional support tools that may be far more powerful than we ever expected?
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
On that note about human design as well, I've been really excited to talk to you about this. Now, back in the day, I had a little bit of a dabble into human design, and I found out that I am a generator 3/5. I think that that's about right. And a lot of these things you kind of do for a bit of a giggle or a little bit of a just a kind of curiosity point. Same for Enneagram. I think Enneagram itself can be a really useful tool just to, if you resonate with something that comes out of that, help you get a little bit more curious about what patterns you might resonate with. And I say the patterns you might resonate with because, again, there's people who see human design as just astrology rebranded. But I would love to hear from you, your experience and your professional and your personal experience around human design, how you use that with your clients, and how you blend that with things like functional lab work that
Yeah.
feels credible and useful.
So I found human design 5 or so years ago. I was working with a business coach at the time, and she wasn't a human design coach, but it's like this little piece of the program. And it was just more of an introduction, kind of to your point. It's like, oh, here, so you can understand yourself at this deeper level and learn how you work, right? And I mean, that was it for me. I was so fascinated by it. I was like, I've got to deep dive into this. So I read the books and I found coaches and I did a program to be certified to interpret all the things. So I just dove headfirst into it. For me, I was in the thick of my own
Yeah.
personal evolution at the time, and so it was such a huge piece of a huge part of my growth and acceptance of me. I was in this stage where I was learning to love myself again. I had been divorced and I had gone through this whole like reawakening thing, and I just was really learning about myself again. So for me, it was such a huge point of like acceptance and validation of, oh, now I understand why I do XYZ. Now I understand these parts that I've tried to like shove down or shove aside, I've been frustrated about. Like, no, these are parts of me. Like I was divinely created this way. These are parts of me that I can accept and I can love and I can see as my superpower versus this challenge or restriction or whatever I saw it as before. So it was just really this huge moment of reckoning with myself and loving myself in a whole new way and seeing myself in a whole new way. And then really understanding how to use that and implement it in my life and in my business, how I operate in my business. And so when I started having this revelation when I was working with clients on a functional level that like, okay, there's these pieces that we're missing. Like, yes, I'm looking at the labs, I'm getting all this data, which is great. But there are these underlying patterns, these underlying energetic patterns that are perpetuating these physical things showing up, right? There's these limiting beliefs and these certain mindset things that are going on in their body that are keeping their adrenals running this way or their hormones running this way. So that's when I decided to bring in human design, because human design is essentially your energetic blueprint. It's how your energy is here to operate. And so if we're saying that, okay, all physical symptoms showing up on the body have this emotional, energetic root cause. I want to understand my energy. I want to understand why my energy is doing the things it's doing. I want to understand how my energy is designed to flow and designed to operate, how I'm designed to make decisions and interact with other people in the world
Mm.
around me. And so that's how I put it together. So for me, it's, yeah, I want to see the data from the labs. I want to get that empirical data. Like, we don't have to guess what's going on with your hormones or your gut. I can look at the labs and see. But now I can put this together with your human design and I can look at, okay, this is how this your labs are saying this is happening in your gut. This is happening in your adrenals. Your energy is designed to move this way. These are the patterns that are perpetuating these things. These are the patterns that exist in your
Mm.
energetic body that are causing these physical things to happen. And then we can start that rewiring process with things like clinical hypnotherapy and NLP and all these subconscious pieces. We can start to rewire, reframe these things, and kind of break through those patterns that have been keeping your energy stuck in the body. So now we can allow that energy to start flowing through the body. We can start healing the physical body because we started at that energetic level.
Mm, and I love that. And I think it becomes really, really fascinating when I first became certified in hypnotherapy about how much that unconscious piece really has an effect. That
Yeah.
was my first introduction to those unconscious patterns, and it can be incredibly powerful. Although my first, as I like to say, I love anyone who calls themselves a skeptic because I'm right there with you. The first time when I was looking into this work and where I was preparing to upskill and become certified, particularly around hypnotherapy, was, "Oh god, please don't make me cluck like a duck."
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
just cluck like a chicken, quack like a duck. I
Yep.
just like, can we not? And you realize that as much as there's tricks out there like that, true clinical hypnotherapy is much more having a relationship and a new understanding and kind of shortcutting a lot of the noise and getting right back to those core things. So I would love to hear from you. Have you been caught by surprise perhaps by being able to help a client understand a little bit more about their human design and how that's impacted their life, or how has it affected your life? And then my third question, just around that, the impact of human design, is if I only have a surface level understanding of my own human design, what does that look like for me? How can that influence my own life, my own relationship with myself? I'm curious about your thoughts about that. As
Yeah.
someone who hears the word human design and is like, yeah, that sounds cute.
Yeah.
I want to hear, how can someone use that a little bit deeper, even if they are a little bit of a skeptic, but also in reference to, as you said, those energetic patterns and how you believe that links with minerals in your body and those energetic
Yeah.
pathways.
Yeah. So I love anything that's at the intersection of science and soul. And for me, that's what this
Mm,
is. Because actually, as
mm,
much as we can see human design as woo or whatever, there's actually a lot of science in it too. And just a little piece of the science where the science comes from, like, yes, we put together like quantum mechanics and quantum physics and neuroscience, but there's also this science piece about neutrinos, which are these really tiny subatomic particles that can pass through matter. And this is science, like, this isn't anything that's made up, like, these actually
mhm,
exist. And so
yeah,
how it passes through matter and it can affect us at a DNA level. And that's the science, like the
mhm,
deep science part of human design. And so for me, to answer your first question, I think the biggest thing for my clients is one, well, let me back up. The thing I want my clients to walk away with their time with me, yes, I want the healing and fixing all the things, like, that's great. I want them to have this deep understanding of their body, and you mentioned this a second ago where you were talking about, like, having this curiosity and understanding our bodies in this in a deeper way. That's what for every woman that works with me, because we weren't given a manual to how our bodies work, and a lot of the women I work with, they don't even know how their period works, like, they really, like, our school system does a really bad job of teaching these things. And so
Right.
I want my clients to have this deep understanding of their bodies and how their bodies work at a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic level, like understanding. And so that's really the piece of the human design is a huge piece of that. Yes, I'm going to give you a deep look at your labs, what's going on in your physical body, but I want you to understand yourself at this energetic level, because when you understand that, now I know how to be in charge of a body that doesn't have to just deal with the low energy or the sleep issues and all these other things. Because I know myself at this energetic level. So now I know why it's happening. Oh, I'm rushing to make my decisions when really I'm designed to take my time to make decisions. That's why I feel so bleh today, right?
Mhm.
Oh, I am designed to, I'm not designed to constantly be in motion and constantly be doing and doing and doing. I'm designed to actually have these creative bursts and then take rest cycles. Like now I'm forcing myself to be creative when it's not time for that. Like there's these things we can learn when we learn our energetic blueprint that can help us work smarter, not harder. And that's for me what human design is you understanding how to work smarter, not harder, and not work against your design and constantly meet resistance. I can feel like at ease and flow with the energy in my body and the energy in the world around me because I know how to work with it. And so for the skeptics out there, I think that the putting the science and the soul together, there's a lot of there's a lot of science around energy. And I think for a while, energy, like just saying the word energy, could be really like woo for people. I think we've come so far from that because there are actual studies now. There are machines that can measure your energetic field, like your aura. Like there are literally things that can measure the energy around you. So I think we know now that energy exists, that everything around us is energy. So I think it's
Mhm.
really just going deeper into that aspect of, and understanding that at a deeper level, and how there's energy in all of the organ systems in our body. There's energy, constant energy happening in our bodies around it. So I think that's a big piece of it for the skeptics. The other thing is, like we were talking earlier about the word chakras, right? The chakra system is a piece of the human design. I know that word can be triggering for people. And if that word is triggering for you, you can say energy center, right? I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Joe Dispenza, but he brings that into his work. He never uses the word chakras because he says it could be triggering for people. He uses the word energy centers. He studies the energy field around your energy centers. Like he looks at the energetic field and he's a scientist. So he's looking at how the energy is flowing around your energy centers in the body, which it's the chakras, it's the energy, it's all the same thing. But your energy centers or your chakras, they're all associated with specific organ systems in the body. And this is really the marriage of the science and the energetics for me. So for example, your root center is connected to your adrenals. So if I can understand how my root center is designed to operate, then I can work on healing my adrenals. And for so often, I think the two most common things that work with my clients, the root center and, well, three maybe, the root center, the sacral, and the solar plexus. The root center is associated with the adrenals. The sacral center is associated with your reproductive organs. And then your solar plexus center is responsible for a lot of your detox organs. These three centers alone, there's so much happening in these centers. And I feel is such a big reason why so many women deal with hormonal issues, reproductive issues, fertility issues, perimenopause issues, all of that is because of what's going on in these centers. And that's going back to your first question. That's another one of the big things I've seen in my clients is doing so much work on, especially the root and the sacral center. I had a client, we went through this whole like hypnotherapy session and she had this huge emotional release. And I take my clients through this practice where they're basically identifying like where they're feeling resistance in the body. She's very specifically identified. I feel it was in her left, specifically her left ovary, and she was explaining it feels like this nail. And so what we come up with was shame. Shame was the emotion that was surrounding this. We did this whole emotional release. 2 days later, she sends me a text and she's in the hospital because she had a cyst rupture literally in her left ovary. I cannot make this
Wow.
up. So when I
Yeah.
have seen this firsthand, like she had this huge emotional release and had this whole moment of acceptance and forgiveness for this situation that happened that brought this shame into her body, and then she released it, like, had this huge physical release. So I remember messaging Rebecca, like, "It sucks you're in the hospital, but hey, this is the biggest release of your life right now, like, this at least up until this point." And she had
Yeah.
this huge awakening after that, where she started doing all these new things in her business. So it's like the energy, it's like the lid came off, all these things came out, and then all of this energy came back into her body, came back into her business. So that's the transformation that I've seen happen over and over again. And it's really just putting these pieces together. It's yes, the
Right.
science is important, the energetics is important. Like it's putting those two things together. That's what makes the biggest difference.
And I love mentioning this to anyone who feels a little like, okay, if it can't be measured, what's the point? One of my favorite experiments that continues to just, I wouldn't say it keeps me up at night, but oh, it lights me up, is the double slit experiment. So, one of the most famous demonstrations in quantum physics is where scientists fired these tiny particles of light, or so photons, towards these slits. It's a barrier with two slits in it, and instead of behaving like little bullets that pass through one slit or the other, they created this pattern that looked like waves overlapping. So that's like an like energy formula. It's what you expect. But what happened is when they tried to measure which particles were going through which slit, the interference pattern disappeared. So the wave pattern disappeared, and that looked like little tiny dots going through. I encourage anyone to look up this experiment. It's just absolutely fascinating. It broke every scientist's brain, because what happened is these exact same particles, when you were observing them and looking at them and had your attention on them, behaved differently to when you were not looking at them at all. Your own observation as a causal interference in our own reality is measurable. And I just constantly, anything that falls down that rabbit hole just blows me away.
Right.
So we don't know everything. We really, really don't. All we know is that we don't know everything. And that the more we look at these things, particularly around energy, particularly around quantum physics, is just so exciting and thrilling, because the world of possibility opens up around not only what is possible with our own bodies, not only what is possible with the world outside of us, but our relationships. And if you are a faith based person, you know, what is absolutely possible when you have a little trust and faith. So, yeah, I love that intersection and that curiosity around all of those things. But what I would really love to ask you, something we do a lot on this podcast, is we like to leave little Easter eggs and questions from guest to guest. So, what we did is, the last guest that was on the podcast, is we said, what is a question that you would like to ask the next guest, not knowing who they are, not knowing what their level of expertise is? What's a question that you would like to ask them, or what would you like to leave behind? And the question that our last podcast guest asked was, how can you get more curious, or what's something that you can get more curious about, if I rephrase, that around what drives you in unexpected ways, and use it better for yourself? So perhaps what's something that maybe you haven't, or you've been avoiding, or a pattern that's been popping up? How can you look at that in a new way and use that better in your life?
That's good. What immediately came up for me, it's funny because I just recorded a podcast episode on this yesterday. I do little like mini episodes on Fridays about just like little bits of wisdom. And I feel like this is relevant to this question because what I've been working with a lot lately is this my feelings around the word responsibility. And
Mm,
for me, the word responsibility has always felt really heavy and like restricted and confining and just not good. And so for me, this is the piece where I got curious. Like, why do I feel so much heaviness about the word responsibility? And I felt like there was a lot of like self sabotage that was happening because of this, like in my business. And so for me, the curiosity is what I recognize. Like, okay, if I were to reframe my feelings around responsibility, if I were able to see it as like breaking down the word responsibility, my ability to respond, then it's my ability to respond to the gifts I've been given, my ability to respond to the mission that's been placed on my heart that I'm here to
mm,
live out. It's my ability to own that part of me, not see it as this heavy burden, but see it as this freedom I have now to live out what God has called me to do and like these divine gifts that I've been
mhm,
given, like to own that part. It's my ability to respond to that. So for me, that was the curiosity piece was like, It was that piece. How can I, like, why does it feel so heavy? And how can I reframe this and do more with it rather than just being this heavy thing that sits on me that's causing me to self-sabotage because I don't want to be responsible for more, right? I'm asking for more, but I don't want to be responsible for more. That's dumb. So it's just a curiosity, like, why does it feel heavy? And yeah, that's the revelation that came to me. So I feel like that is relevant to that question because I
I
feel
love
like
that.
taking that with me, I can feel differently around because I mean, you can't want more and not be responsible for more. Like, you have to be able to own that
Mhm.
responsibility. And so I think I can, yeah, that's just a big reframe I've had recently that I feel like is
I
relevant
love
to the
that.
question.
That's really, really powerful. It's one of my favorite phrases. Yeah,
Mm,
ability to respond. It's really
mhm,
powerful.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I love that
And
question.
on
That
that
was
note,
good.
yeah, it's a good
Mm,
one. I
mhm,
love these questions. It's sort of my
yeah,
favorite part of every
I
episode.
love this.
Um,
Yeah.
so on that note, I would love to ask you, what is a question, not knowing what the next guest is going to specialize in or who they're going to be, what would you like to ask them?
Okay. What's coming up for me? I think that so often we can go through life in a very unconscious way. Like, we just basically sleep through half of our life. So my question is about, what are some ways you can live more awake? That's going to be my question. What are some things that you can shift in your life that allow you to live more awake?
And so, Hope, I would like to ask you, what are some things that you can shift in your life that allow you to live in a more awake way?
Yeah. A big thing for me, like, I pick a word at the beginning of the year, right? To, like, lead with intention. And this year was, well, there's two words. One of them was presence. And so that's been really the big thing for me is being present in the moment. I have two littles. And so when you have kids, it's like, even, I feel like it's just even more crucial to, like, just be present because they grow up so fast. And it's like, you love this one stage you're in and then it's over and they're in the next stage. So I think that's been a huge lesson for me too, of just really being present in all the little moments. And in my business, I have two businesses, and a lot of times business can be really hard and heavy, and honestly, sometimes I can just you can just be in the sucky parts of it and the growing pains, right? And so for me, it's like, can I be present in all of these, even the hard moments? For me, that helps me be more awake because I'm more aware of the journey, and I'm more aware of the learnings and the wisdom that I can get along the way versus just being stuck in the hard and just feeling stuck in the feelings of, oh, it's hard and this sucks right now. So for me, being more awake is just being more present so I can be more aware of what I'm here to learn throughout the process. Mhm.
Mhm. I love that. That's beautiful. Hope, where can the listeners find you if they want to travel down this path a little bit more about all things
Yeah.
minerals and human design?
Yeah. So I am most active on Instagram. I'm at the Hope Pedraza on Instagram. I have a podcast called the Hopeful and Wholesome Podcast. So I talk about all these things: wellness, nutrition, minerals, mindset, energetics, all the things. And then my website is hopefulandwholesome.com.
I love that. Thank you so much for being here, Hope. I feel like there's so
Yeah.
many more rabbit holes that we can go down.
100%.
But we're going we're going to put your socials and where people can find out a little bit more about you and the work that you do in the show notes. But if this has brought up anything for you, if you have any further questions that have come up from this episode, I want to thank all of our listeners for being here and sharing this space with us. If you'd like to continue the conversation, anything particularly around relationships and your own relationship with yourself and your body and your own sense of presence, we would love to dive deeper with you. If you have any questions, something else you would like to ask on the podcast, come and hang out with us on Instagram at Lauren_dry. These kinds of conversations are absolute light within our day to day. So please come over and ask questions and hang out anytime you need. And make sure to follow along, like and share if this is something that's really resonated with you. And we cannot wait to continue the conversation with you over on Instagram and on our podcast. So thank you for being here, everyone, and looking forward to sharing the conversation.